Hello everybody, thank you for joining me once again for another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today I will be talking about Season 4, Episode 12, Mrs. Herman and Mrs. Fenimore, starring Mary Astor and Russell Collins. This episode here, while I didn't think it was the most exciting episode in the world, it was pretty decent throughout with some solid acting, especially by Mary Astor, which you would expect, I suppose. But I have to say the ending of this episode really worked for me, and it fooled me a little bit. So overall, I wound up enjoying this episode. So we start with Alfred Hitchcock and some knife throwing, and things go okay for Alfred. He survives, but I can't say the same for the messenger who delivers him a note about the show, so that was kind of interesting. Then the episode starts out after the intro with this woman named Mrs. Herman and her Uncle Bill. And it turns out that this Uncle Bill doesn't like her choice in music, and to be fair, I wasn't wild about it either. But I have to say this guy Bill is just a little bit too crabby throughout the episode for my taste, but I kind of agreed with him here. So we learn that Mrs. Herman's looking for a boarder, and Uncle Bill tells her she'll never find one because she's too fussy. And she says she's just looking for the right person. We'll find out more about why that is soon. So then this lady called Mrs. Fenimore, named Mrs. Fenimore, comes to visit, and she says she's an actress, but she's not working right now. She's taking some time off. So it seems like Mrs. Herman thinks she's a good applicant at this time. So at this point, we go to another scene where Bill and Mrs. Herman get in an argument over a newspaper. This kind of stops when Bill is introduced to Mrs. Fenimore. So they have dinner, and it seems like Miss Herman is explaining some things about the situation at this point. It turns out that Bill has some money. He's pretty wealthy. And when he's gone, since she's his only relative, she will inherit the money, which seems to interest Mrs. Fenimore as well, who seems to be getting along pretty well with Uncle Bill, I have to say. So we go forward 2 weeks in the next scene. And it turns out that Mrs. Herman is showing her true intentions now. She wants Mrs. Fenimore's help in murdering Uncle Bill, basically. She wants Mrs. Fenimore to get into his room. And to be honest, I wasn't completely clear what they're trying to do here, but I figured at this point in the episode that this will probably backfire and won't work, and that either Uncle Bill will get the last laugh or that Mrs. Fenimore will turn on Mrs. Herman some way. But the twist in the episode was neither of these, so good job to this episode for fooling me there. So Mrs. Fenimore starts working her charms on Bill to try and get him to invite her to his room, if that makes sense. The women plan some more, and it's kind of explained what they want to do here. So the plan kind of gets messed up because Mrs. Fenimore is kind of doing too good of a job, and Uncle Bill wants to go out for the night. So they go to the next day, and Uncle Bill's upset because he spent too much money, which was all part of Mrs. Fenimore's plan to get him to stay in the next time. So finally, this plan starts to work, as Bill really likes when Mrs. Fenimore reads to him, and because of Mrs. Herman's music, which was cleverly brought back, which, like I said, I don't really care for too much either, Bill agrees to let Mrs. Fenimore read to him in his room. So at this point, it's all up to Mrs. Herman, and we find out in the next scene that off screen she did happen to kill Bill, which surprised me. And I think it was the doctor who was asking some questions. He seemed satisfied. The women seemed to cover this up pretty well. But it turns out in a twist that when it looks like both women are going to get what they want, Mrs. Fenimore explains to Mrs. Herman that she married Bill in secret, so now she gets all the money, but she tells Mrs. Herman that she'll send her a little something for her troubles. And then, of course, at the end, Alfred Hitchcock tells us that in the end, both women got caught after they spent the money. But like I said, the twist of this episode actually surprised me, but I thought it was a fair twist. Overall, I did think the episode was a little slow going. The tone was a little strange at times. But overall, because the episode was interesting and kept me guessing, I'm going to give Mrs. Herman and Mrs. Fenimore a 3.5 out of 5. So I did enjoy this episode quite a bit. As always, you could tell me what you thought of this episode if you'd like in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.